My name is Alexander Gross, and I will be doing my authentic assessment for English 363 African American authors from the colonial period to the 1900s. The question was posed due to ongoing budget difficulties. The university's administration is exploring ways to cut costs, and they're proposing eliminating English 363. And we have to take a position, whether it's affirmative or negative, and how we support this proposition. Let me first say that I do not support getting rid of English 363. I've taken, several courses on African American authors, and I would say by far that this is the most important and expository course on the subject that I've ever taken. It really delves deep into the methodology, psychology, social, political, economical issues that blacks were facing in a time period that's not really talked about much. You hear a few things on Black History Month, but as far as blacks as a people, there was a lot of stereotypes and stigmas associated with black people at this particular time. We understand that, that not all blacks were slaves. 10% of blacks at the time were not slaves. We understand that there was social issues that they were dealt with, that blacks were lazy, that they were, ignorant. And we see that this was directly counteracted by, the Freedom Journal, which was the first black, newspaper. And we understand there were blacks that were prominent in the time. We understand that the individuals like Frederick Douglass, we understand about how his life, and we understand the importance of education and how he would even trade some of his food so that he could learn to read and write. Then we understand how he became not only a predominant author in the black community, but he also became a prominent political figure. He was one of the leading abolitionists, and when it came to blacks, enlisting into the Civil War in support of the Union, he was the staunchest advocate. We see that from his leadership and tutelage of the black community, we see that it being transferred into Booker T. Washington through the educational aspect of it, through the Tuskegee Institute. Universities like Fisk would come on, and they would be the bridge, so to speak, that would take blacks from slavery to acceptable in society. We see two main theories going on at the time. We see W.B. Du Bois, who was a Harvard-educated, black male. And then we see the Booker T. Washington, and Booker T. Washington advocated the industrial education for blacks, farming, and such, so that they could become acceptable in white society. Whereas W.B. Du Bois advocated for more of a classical education. And it was this classical education that he believed that would allow blacks to become equal with whites, not just socially, but also politically. But we see in these arguments, ultimately, Booker T. Washington won out. But when he passed, we saw the prominence of the NAACP and how these movements were the foundation for what we see in the Martin Luther King, who would be following in the footsteps of a Booker T. Washington, and the Malcolm X, who would be a advocate of the W.B. Du Bois philosophy, that any means, even if it meant confrontation, because they understood the importance not just of the education, but what it meant when it was incorporated in the society form and how it would be accepted. So therefore, the parallels are important to note. This class has been very important in enlightening a lot of issues that have been darkened from a literary perspective, from the historical perspective. We understand that blacks not only were just writers, but they did have and played an important role in American history. So I would say I would advocate strongly that this class be taken by anyone, because it does shed a lot of insight, and this completes my authentic assessment. You can look below for these citations. Thank you very much.